Welcome everyone to the program. I'm Eric Ham reporting from our studios here in Washington, D.C. And coming up on Firstpost America, we've got the latest on the Middle East, the showdown in New York, and a Caracas reorg. All that and more, but we begin with the latest global headlines. Madagascar's president dissolves the National Assembly to prevent an opposition-led vote aimed at removing him a day after fleeing the country amid a deepening political crisis. Malaysia's foreign minister says President Trump will attend the ceremonial signing of a peace agreement between Thailand and Cambodia at the ASEAN summit in Kuala Lumpur, which will be held later this month. China sanctions 5 American subsidiaries of a South Korean shipbuilder, accusing them of helping a U.S. shipping probe on Beijing as a tit-for-tat on port fees take effect. Australia's defense minister says the country will make a second billion-dollar payment soon to boost U.S. nuclear submarine shipyards. The statement comes ahead of Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's official visit to the U.S. next week. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi hails Google's announcement about the launch of an AI hub in the country. The tech giant plans to invest $15 billion over the next 5 years in India. We begin in Egypt, where world leaders gathered on Monday for what could go down as one of the most significant diplomatic moments in years. Led by President Donald Trump, the summit concluded with the signing of a ceasefire deal for Gaza, marking a potential turning point after 2 years of conflict. The event brought together leaders from Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, France, the UK, and among others. And here are 5 of the key takeaways from the summit. First, President Donald Trump, joined by regional and global leaders, signed the Gaza peace agreement, which the White House has officially titled the Trump Peace Agreement. In his speech, President Trump described the signing as a very important moment in history, one that he claimed took 3,000 years to get to this point.
This is a monumental day. This is a monumental moment in the history of the world beyond the Middle East. We've all agreed that supporting Gaza must be done to lift up the people themselves, but we don't want to fund anything having to do with bloodshed, hatred, or terror, as has happened in the past. And for the same reason, we're also agreed that Gaza's reconstruction requires that it be demilitarized and that a new, honest civilian police force must be allowed to create a safe condition for the people in Gaza.
The deal, he said, commits all sides to ending the fighting and starting a new chapter for Gaza built on hope, security, and prosperity. And while the document is light on specifics, it reflects a broad pledge to restore calm in a region that has long been at the heart of global instability. Secondly, what's equally significant is what is left out of the agreement. The plan makes no reference to a two-state solution, the long-standing framework that envisions separate Israeli and Palestinian states living side by side. Now, earlier, President declined to directly address whether he supports recognizing a Palestinian state.
I'm not talking about single state or double state or two-state. We're talking about the rebuilding of Gaza. A lot of people like the one-state solution. Some people like the two-state solutions. We'll have to see.
Third, a major focus of the summit was the reconstruction of Gaza, which has been left in ruins after years of war. President Donald Trump promised a massive flow of international aid, saying a lot of money is coming into Gaza with massive rebuilding taking place.
In one sense, it's so horrible that it could have taken place, but in another sense, it's so beautiful to see a new and beautiful day is rising, and now the rebuilding begins. The rebuilding is maybe going to be the easiest part. I think we've done a lot of the hardest part because the rest comes together. We all know how to rebuild, and we know how to build better than anybody in the world.
And fourth, although the first phase of the ceasefire agreement has been enacted, there is a lingering question over what role the Palestinian Authority might eventually play in Gaza. On Monday, all living Israeli hostages were returned by Hamas, as were around 2,000 Palestinians. As for the second phase of the agreement, President Trump said the negotiations were currently underway.
When phase 2 of the negotiations will begin?
Well, it started. It started as far as we're concerned. Phase 2 has started.
And lastly, Egypt's president, who co-chaired the summit with President Trump, hailed the deal as a historic achievement, announcing that Egypt would bestow on President Trump the Order of the Nile, the country's highest state honor. The Egyptian president also praised President Trump as the only one capable of bringing this about, saying his determination and diplomacy were crucial in getting rival sides to the table.
Egypt will work with the United States in coordination with all partners in the coming days to lay the common foundations for moving forward with the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip without delay. In this context, we intend to host the Early Recovery, Reconstruction, and Development Conference, which will build on our plan to end the war in Gaza.
And as for now, the ceasefire continues to hold as the world looks to the region's leaders to see if they can turn this truce into lasting peace. From the Gaza Peace Summit's serious declarations, we now turn to the moments that stole the spotlight and the laughter. What was meant to be a stage for peace quickly became a global comedy reel. President Trump mixed up titles, Pakistan's prime minister delivered a never-ending monologue, and Turkey's president launched a surprise anti-smoking campaign. Even the handshakes turned into performances of their own. Between the applause and the awkward smiles, leaders found unity, at least in laughter. Here's a look at the summit's lighter side in our next report.
The Gaza Peace Summit in Egypt promised historic breakthroughs. But what actually grabbed the headlines were the unscripted moments that made the world laugh. The summit began seriously enough with world leaders gathering to witness a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Cameras clicked, pens hovered over documents, and then came Donald Trump, apparently determined to turn diplomacy into a stand-up routine. First on stage, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Trump began, before seemingly promoting Carney to the non-existent position of President of Canada.
You have Canada. It's so great to have, in fact, the president called and he wanted to know if it's worthwhile. He knew exactly what it was. He knew the importance.
Carney, ever the sport, joked, "Thanks for upgrading me to president." Trump chuckled, patted him on the shoulder and added, "At least I didn't call you a governor." The room laughed, half in amusement, half in relief that they weren't next.
Oh, did I say?
Great stuff. It's good. I started.
We said inside.
Then came the summit's most unexpected performance.
The prime minister is here and you're going to give his regards. Where are you?
Mid-speech, Trump handed the microphone to Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, urging him to speak. But what followed was a 5-minute monologue that could have doubled as a campaign rally. Sharif lavished Trump with praise, calling him the man the world needed most, and claiming he had stopped 7, now 8 wars.
Well, I would say today is one of the greatest days in contemporary history, because peace has been achieved. The world would always remember you as a man who did everything, went out of the way to stop 7 and today 8 wars.
He even nominated Trump, yet again, for the Nobel Peace Prize. And Trump, blinking, smirking, and eagerly waiting to retake the podium, finally said, "Wow, I didn't expect that. Let's all go home. There's nothing more I have to say."
Mr. President, I would like to salute you.
Meanwhile, Turkish President Erdogan found a side mission, making Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni quit smoking. French President Emmanuel Macron, overhearing the conversation, laughed, "It's impossible."
Is everything okay?
Her şey yolunda.
İyi gördüm.
Oh, you look great. Oh, thank you.
Ama sigarayı bıraktırmam lazım.
But I have to make you stop smoking somehow.
I know.
Then Trump, of course, could not resist commenting on Meloni himself, calling Meloni beautiful. He added that in the US, if one says that about a woman, then one's political career is over. Meloni did not respond visibly, probably weighing whether this was a compliment or an unsanctioned moment of chaos.
Italy, we have a woman, a young woman who's, I'm not allowed to say it because usually it's the end of your political career if you say it. She's a beautiful young woman. Now, if you use the word beautiful in the United States about a woman, that's the end of your political career, but I'll take my chances. Where is she? There she is. You don't mind being called beautiful, right? Because you are.
And then came the piece de resistance, the handshake. Trump and Macron engaged in a 26-second display of friendly, tugging, twisting and posing, an arm wrestle masquerading as diplomacy. As usual, social media users were quick to share their expert opinions. While some said the French president needed some ice, others pointed out that Trump dominated WrestleMania. Amid all the laughs, handshakes and unsolicited compliments, the summit did manage to achieve something serious. Hamas released all 20 living Israeli hostages, Israel freed 1,900 Palestinian prisoners, and leaders signed a historic ceasefire agreement. By the time Trump declared it a new beginning for a beautiful Middle East, the audience had witnessed peace, comedy and chaos, sometimes all at once.
And now in South America, Venezuela announced a major diplomatic reshuffle, closing its embassies in Norway and Australia while opening new ones in Burkina Faso and Zimbabwe in what it called a strategic reassignment of resources. The government confirmed the move yesterday, saying it was part of a wider restructuring of the country's foreign service. In a statement, Caracas said consular services for Venezuelans in Norway and Australia would continue through other diplomatic missions, with details to follow in the coming days. The Norwegian Foreign Ministry confirmed receiving an official notice of the closure, but said no explanation was given.
This is regrettable. Despite the fact that we have different views on several issues, Norway wishes to keep the dialogue with Venezuela open and will work towards that.
Norway doesn't have an embassy in Caracas and instead handles its relations with Venezuela through its mission in Bogota, Colombia. The embassy closure comes just days after Venezuela's opposition leader Maria Corina Machado was awarded the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize in Oslo for her tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela. Machado, who has long opposed President Maduro's 12-year rule, dedicated the prize to President Donald Trump. In fact, during an interview, she even said that she is counting down the end of the Maduro government.
I have no doubt that we are in a countdown to the end of Maduro's government. I must confess that it has been a great challenge for me.
Venezuela's government has not commented directly on Machado's win, but described the embassy closures as unrelated, citing diplomatic restructuring instead. However, the timing has drawn global attention, particularly given the symbolic role of Norway, which is home to the Nobel Committee. Norwegian officials were quick to stress that the Nobel Prize, however, is entirely independent of the government.
The Nobel Prize is independent of the Norwegian government, and when it comes to questions about the prize, we refer to the Nobel Committee.
So while the Nobel Committee praised Machado as a key unifying figure in a once deeply divided opposition, Maduro dismissed her as a demonic witch.
All the polls are there. 90% of our people reject any threat of invasion or war against Venezuela. All the polls say so. Between 80% and 85% of our people are ready to fight for their homeland, for their land, Venezuela. And 90% of the entire population repudiates the demonic witch La Seona.
Now, alongside the embassy closures, Caracas announced it will open new embassies in Zimbabwe and Burkina Faso, countries it described as sister nations, strategic allies, and in the resistance against hegemonic pressures. The reshuffle follows weeks of mounting tensions between Caracas and Washington. And the U.S. military recently carried out several strikes on vessels off Venezuela's Caribbean coast, alleging they were involved in narcotics trafficking. At least 21 people were reportedly killed in 4 separate operations. Venezuela has condemned the attacks as violations of international law and urged the United Nations to intervene. President Maduro, on the other hand, has accused Washington of attempting to provoke regime change, while the Trump administration has labeled Venezuela a narco state and launched a new counter-narcotics task force under its southern command. With embassies closing in U.S.-aligned nations and new ones opening in countries closer to Russia's orbit, Caracas appears to be redrawing its diplomatic map, and this time the message seems clearly unmistakable. And now to New York City, where Democratic frontrunner Zohran Mamdani is facing growing scrutiny over his campaign finances. According to reports by right-wing media outlets, Mamdani's campaign accepted donations from foreign sources, which would be a direct violation of U.S. election law. The controversy comes just weeks before Election Day and has raised fresh questions about transparency, accountability, and the flow of money into American politics. Now, under U.S. election law, candidates are strictly prohibited from accepting campaign funds from non-U.S. citizens or foreign residents. Yet new findings suggest that Zoran Mamdani's mayoral campaign received nearly $13,000 from foreign donors, including a contribution from his mother-in-law in Dubai. According to campaign's finance records reviewed by multiple outlets, at least 170 contributions to Mamdani's campaign were made from addresses outside the United States. Among them was an investor based in Dubai who gave around $2,000 in September. Now, under such circumstances, candidates are expected to return any foreign funds immediately, and failure to do so can lead to heavy fines or even criminal charges if the violation is found to be intentional. But in Mamdani's case, campaign records show that 88 donations worth over $7,000 have still not been returned. And the campaign has reportedly returned over $5,000 in donations so far, including his mother-in-law's donation. According to reports, the campaign said it intends to return any donations that were sent from outside the U.S. And most of the foreign donations reportedly came in June, just before Mamdani's surprising primary win over former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and current Mayor Eric Adams. Now, Mamdani is currently the front-runner in New York City's mayoral elections. The donors, according to records, include a wide mix of people, including tech workers, doctors, professors, and students. Some donors pledged just $1, others up to $2,000. Already, he's raised over $4 million in private donations, received nearly $13 million in public matching funds, and still holds more than $6 million in his campaign account, with less than a month to go before the election. Now, the controversy also follows a separate incident on Sunday when Mamdani participated in a United Nations fundraiser linked to the UNRWA, an agency previously criticized for employing individuals connected to the October 7 Hamas attacks. His campaign has not responded to questions about the event. And throughout the backlash, Mamdani has continued to position himself as a progressive challenger to the political establishment. In fact, at a rally in Upper Manhattan on Monday, he attacked his rivals, Andrew Cuomo and President Donald Trump, directly.
We can demand a government that makes our lives better. We can tell billionaires that this city doesn't just belong to them. We can tell Donald Trump he cannot buy this election. And we can tell Andrew Cuomo that New York City is not for sale.
But as Mamdani fights to define himself as the voice of the people, the questions over his campaign foreign donations refuse to fade. The next few weeks could determine not just Mamdani's political future, but how New York defines the boundaries between global support and domestic law. And finally, from Saudi Arabia, fast, fierce, and now a lot greener, motorsport is entering a new era in the Saudi desert. A brand new racing series, Extreme H, debuts with the world's first hydrogen-powered off-road cars. These high-performance vehicles race across tough terrain, leaving nothing behind but water vapor. Our next report takes you inside this high-speed, eco-friendly revolution.
The roar of engines in the Saudi desert just got a little cleaner and a lot more futuristic. A brand new racing series called Extreme H has made its debut in Qiddiya City, showcasing the world's first hydrogen-powered off-road race cars. Built as the next step from all-electric Extreme E series, this championship pushes motorsport into a new, greener era. The sleek, dust-spraying Pioneer 25 cars run on hydrogen fuel cells, meaning their only emission is water vapor. These cars have been designed for tough terrain and high performance.
So we want to push on for the next energy source, the next level of technology, and we thought that hydrogen was the right way to go. So we've developed an all-new car. It looks similar to the previous Extreme E car, but actually it's very, very removed. Suspension geometries and so on, and all those great lessons we learned in Extreme E have been carried over to Extreme H.
So how does it work? Each car carries onboard hydrogen tanks that feed fuel cells, generating electricity to power the battery and twin electric motors.
What we've got with our hydrogen car is we've got onboard tanks, like you would associate with a gas car. But we've got a hydrogen fuel cell that converts that hydrogen into electricity and water vapor. That electricity powers our onboard battery that's provided by Fortescue. And that electricity from the battery powers the front and rear electric motors.
The hydrogen cars are significantly heavier, around 500 to 600 kilos more than their electric predecessors. That extra weight means drivers have to rethink how they handle the vehicle.
I mean, in terms of driving the car, it's not so big difference for the driver itself if it's hydrogen or electric, because basically we drive from the battery and the hydrogen is charging the battery. So the biggest difference is the weight of the car. It's a lot heavier. It's between 500–600 kilo heavier. So that takes a little bit of different driving style in terms of that you have to brake a little bit earlier.
While teams are still fine-tuning their vehicles, the early races already show that hydrogen technology can perform under extreme weather conditions. The debut FIA Extreme H World Cup ended with Jameel Motorsports' Kevin Hansen and Molly Taylor taking the top spot, marking a milestone moment for the sport. Here is a look at hydrogen-powered cars on the market. Hydrogen-powered cars, known as fuel cell electric vehicles, are paving the way for a cleaner future on the roads. Leading the pack are models like the Toyota Mirai and the Hyundai Nexo, two of the most advanced vehicles currently available to everyday drivers. In Saudi Arabia, as the cars kick up clouds of desert dust while quietly emitting nothing but water vapor, Extreme H proves that motorsport and sustainability can go hand in hand. This could be the start of a new chapter where speed meets sustainability and racing goes truly clean. In short, the desert heat might stay the same, but the future of racing just got a lot cooler.
That does it for us today. From all of us here at Firstpost America, we thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow. Thanks, everyone, for watching.